He fired me on a live-streamed Zoom call in front of the entire company, the board, and a handful of tech journalists. He called it a strategic realignment to leverage next-gen agile frameworks. I, the architect of the $1.5 billion platform his entire company ran on, was now a legacy dependency he was sunsetting. He smiled with the blinding confidence F a man who thinks buzzwords can code. My response? A calm, simple, thank you. He thought I was just a part of the furniture. He was about to learn I was the architect, and I still had the master key. His biggest mistake wasn't firing me. It was not reading the footnotes on the compliance document I wrote 6 years ago. Ready for the story of how a single clause in a forgotten contract brought a performative CEO and his house of cards crashing down in the most gloriously public and satisfying way imaginable. Settle in. Part 1, a strategic realignment of dignity. The digital guillotine fell at 10:03 a.m. on a Tuesday. It wasn't a sharp, clean drop, but a clumsy, performative affair orchestrated by a man who probably thought synergy was a type of renewable energy. Liam Rodriguez, the newly minted CEO of Apex Nova, filled my screen. His suit was a shade of blue so aggressive it seemed to be screaming about its own price tag. It was tailored just a little too tight, a desperate plea for a physique he didn't quite possess. His teeth, a blinding white set of veneers, looked like they'd been installed by a luxury bathroom contractor. He was a walking, talking LinkedIn post about hustle culture. "Team," he began, his voice echoing with the artificial warmth of 1,000 corporate all-hands meetings. The Zoom gallery was a Brady Bunch grid of 200 faces, a mix of engineers, marketing drones, and a few stone-faced board members I recognized from their unnervingly placid headshots. As we pivot towards a Q4 of disruptive innovation, it's imperative that we optimize our resource allocation. We're moving from a monolithic structure to a more dynamic, decentralized paradigm. I sipped my Earl Grey tea, my own video feed a placid, neutral background of a single, perfectly healthy ficus plant. My internal monologue, however, was far from placid. Monolithic structure. He was talking about NexusCore, the modular operating system I had spent 6 years of my life meticulously engineering from a single line of code into the central nervous system of Apex Nova. It wasn't monolithic, it was elegant, a cathedral of logical architecture. Calling it monolithic was like calling a Swiss watch a heavy rock. And that, he continued, his gaze flicking to my name on his screen, means we must have the courage to sunset legacy dependencies. There it was, the corporate euphemism for a public execution. I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me, the kind you get when you've been expecting a storm and the first drop of rain finally hits your windowpane. It wasn't shock. It was confirmation. Olivia Clark has been a foundational part of our journey, Liam said, the platitudes sticking to the air like cheap cologne. Her contributions to the initial build of our core platform were considerable. The pause was deliberate, a little theatrical kick to the ribs. But as we embrace AI-driven solutions and the power of Synergy Flow 3, we are realigning our leadership to better reflect our forward momentum vision. Synergy Flow 3, I almost laughed. It was Liam's pet project, a gaudy, overwrought performance matrix he'd been touting since his arrival. It was, from what I could gather from the chaotic Google Docs shared by his innovation task force, a glorified spreadsheet with a slick UI and a mountain of buzzwords, designed to generate charts that made him look good. And it was built, of course, directly on top of my monolithic NexusCore. He was firing the architect of the building while living in the penthouse. The irony was so rich, so deeply, profoundly stupid, that it was almost beautiful. Around the grid, I saw the reactions. My lead engineer, Ava Lopez, looked like she'd been physically struck. William Gonzalez, a senior developer who'd been with me since the beginning, had his camera conveniently turned off, but I could imagine him staring at his screen in disbelief. Charlotte Martin, the director of operations, and a woman for whom nonsense was a mortal enemy, maintained an expression of icy neutrality that was more damning than any scowl. "So, Olivia," Liam said, his smile returning, a predator showing its teeth after a kill. "We thank you for your service and wish you the best in your future endeavors. Emily from HR will be in touch to manage your offboarding." The entire company, the entire board, was waiting for my reaction. They expected tears or anger or a desperate plea. They expected a scene. I gave them nothing. I unmuted my microphone. The silence was absolute. "Thank you, Liam," I said, my voice even and clear. "I appreciate the clarity." I then muted my microphone, took another slow sip of my tea, and clicked the red "Leave meeting" button. The connection severed, and my apartment was quiet again, save for the hum of my servers in the next room. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel despair. I felt a cool, crystalline sense of purpose. For years, I had watched men like Liam, men with more charisma than competence, more jargon than knowledge, fail upward. They talked about building things, while people like me quietly, diligently, actually built them. They took the credit, they cashed the checks, and they discarded the architects when they became inconvenient. But I was a systems architect. I believed in structure. I believed in logic. And I believed, with every fiber of my being, in planning for contingencies. I walked over to my bookshelf, past the tomes on data structures and quantum computing, and pulled out a simple, leather-bound folder. Inside was a single document, printed on heavy bond paper. It was the incorporation and IP assignment agreement for a small, dormant subsidiary I had created 2 years prior, during a frantic budget restructuring. Its name was Veridian Systems, and within that agreement, under a mountain of legalese, was a clause I had written myself, a little piece of poetry I had composed for just such an occasion. Architectural Integrity, Clause 721. In the event of termination of project funding or leadership oversight of the core platform architect of NexusCore, all intellectual property rights, system access credentials, and operational controls F. Or the NexusCore platform shall automatically and immediately revert to the original IP holder, Veridian Systems, until a verifiable, qualified successor is legally appointed, contractually integrated, and technically certified by an independent third-party auditor. It was my kill switch, a legal and digital failsafe designed to protect the integrity of my work from the hubris of fools. Liam hadn't just fired me. He had, with his own manicured hands, just given me the keys to his kingdom, and he had absolutely no idea. I set the folder down on my polished concrete countertop, went back to my desk, and began to wait. The show was about to begin, and I had the best seat in the house. Part 2, The Symphony of Self-Sabotage. My life post-Apex, Nova did not descend into the frantic panic of unemployment. There was no desperate scrolling through job boards, no tearful phone calls to mentors. Instead, I established a new routine. My mornings began with artisanal Earl Grey tea and a review of the financial markets. My afternoons were spent at a minimalist cafe downtown, reading a book on Japanese garden design. My evenings were for observing the digital implosion of my former employer. Liam, predictably, was on a victory tour. His LinkedIn profile became an insufferable monument to his own perceived genius. Thrilled to announce a bold new direction for Apex Nova. One post began, accompanied by a professionally shot photo of him pointing at a whiteboard covered in meaningless circles and arrows. By sunsetting legacy systems and embracing an AI-first, synergy-driven culture, we are unlocking unprecedented value for our stakeholders. Disruption, innovation, future of tech leadership. I bookmarked it, a faint smile playing on my lips. Each post was another nail he was cheerfully hammering into his own coffin. The true theater, however, was in the company's public Slack channels, which I could still view through a benign, forgotten guest account. The Innovation Nation channel, Liam's personal megaphone, was a fire hose of corporate absurdity. He posted motivational gifs of eagles soaring, polls asking, "What does synergy mean to you?" and endless announcements about his pet project. Liam Rodriguez, CEO, 10:15 a.m. Big news, innovators. The official rollout of Synergy Flow 3 begins today. This next-gen, a iPod performance matrix will provide us with real-time, data-driven insights into our cross-functional deliverables. Get ready to leverage the future. Rocket, chart with upward trend. His message was met with a flurry of fire emoji reactions from the marketing and sales teams. The engineers, I noted, were conspicuously silent. For 2 weeks, I simply watched. I observed the frantic energy, the forced enthusiasm, the slow-bubbling panic just beneath the surface. I was a naturalist in a bizarre corporate jungle, documenting the behavior of a creature entirely unaware of its own impending extinction. The first tremor arrived on a Thursday afternoon in the form of a private message on my encrypted Signal account. It was from Noah Hernandez, a junior developer I'd mentored. He was a good kid, smart, earnest, and completely terrified of the corporate jargon Liam spewed like a malfunctioning sprinkler system. Noah H., 2:47 p.m. Hey Olivia, sorry to bother you. Hope you're doing okay. Quick question and totally weird, but have you ever seen Nexuscore just stop talking? Me, 2:48 p.m. Stop talking? Noah H., 2:49 p.m. Yeah. Like Synergy Flow is trying to pull performance metrics from the core, but the API is returning null values. Complete ghost town. Liam is telling everyone it's a caching latency issue from the legacy integration, but the logs are clean. There are no requests being denied. It's like the packets are just going into the void. It's generating these existential dread reports, made-up numbers. Synergy Flow is basically hallucinating productivity because it has no real data to read. Is that possible? I took a slow, deliberate sip of my matcha latte. The corner of my mouth twitched into a smile. It was more beautiful than I could have imagined. My kill switch hadn't just severed access, it had done so silently. Nexuscore hadn't put up a firewall. It had simply vanished, becoming a black hole into which all of Liam's precious data requests would disappear forever. And his own next-gen iPod tool, starved of real information, was doing exactly what any poorly designed algorithm would do. It was making things up. It was inventing a reality to please its master. Me, 2:52 p.m. That does sound strange, Noah. Sounds like a foundational architecture issue. Hope you guys figure it out. I closed the app. I had my confirmation. Clause 721 hadn't just been triggered. It was actively working, a silent, elegant virus in their system. Liam was now flying a plane with a disconnected instrument panel that was telling him he was soaring through the clouds, while in reality, he was in a nosedive. The beauty of it was that my revenge required no action. No hacking, no sabotage, no angry emails. My weapon was Liam's own incompetence, and my strategy was patience. All I had to do was sit back and watch him try to leverage a platform that no longer belonged to him. The system wasn't broken. It was working perfectly, exactly as I had designed it to, and he was too blinded by his own buzzwords to see it. Part 3, a cascade of reply-alls and red flags. The digital tremors grew into a full-blown earthquake over the next week. The evidence of Apex Nova's internal meltdown wasn't found in a single dramatic event, but in the mundane artifacts of corporate life, which, to an experienced observer, told a story of escalating, comical panic. My mornings were now spent perusing a collection of forwarded emails and leaked Slack conversations from my loyalists still trapped inside. It was better than the morning paper. It started with an email chain from Ava Lopez to the entire engineering department. Subject: urgent investigating Nexuscore API latency. From Ava Lopez A. Lopez at apexnova.com to engineering team ang all at apexnova.com. Team. As you know, We're seeing persistent null returns from multiple NexusScore API endpoints. Liam has assured us this is a minor integration issue with Synergy Flow, but after 72 hours of diagnostics, we can find no fault on our end. It's as if the core services are simply not responding. Please dedicate all available resources to tracing these packet losses. 3 days later, the subject line had evolved. Subject, Ray, critical total NexusScore data stream disconnection. From Ava Lopez A. Lopez at apexnova.com to engineering team Ang All at apexnova.com. CC, Charlotte Martin C. Martin at apexnova.com. We are now facing a total data blackout from the NexusScore platform. Let me be clear, this is not a latency issue. The platform is entirely unresponsive. Our monitoring tools are showing 100% packet loss, as if the host servers do not exist. I have escalated this to Liam, who insists that Synergy Flow's metrics, which are now showing a 200% increase in synergistic output, are the source of truth. We need to understand what is happening at the foundational level. I could picture Ava, her face tight with frustration, trying to explain the concept of garbage in, garbage out, to a man who believed you could build a skyscraper on a foundation of pure jargon. Then came the Google Docs. A link to a document titled Q3 Synergy Flow Launch Plan V14 Final Liam Edits V2 1 DocX landed in my inbox. It was a masterpiece of corporate delusion. The document was a sea of red track changes and conflicting comments. My favorite was a comment from Liam on a technical chart explaining the data flow. Liam Rodriguez, let's reframe this from a problem space to a solution-oriented paradigm. Instead of focusing on data loss, can we call it asynchronous data actualization? Sounds more innovative. He wasn't trying to fix the problem. He was trying to rebrand it. The most delicious intelligence came from a private Slack channel for senior developers, a screenshot of which was sent to me by William Gonzalez. William G. 11:42 a.m. Is anyone else feeling like we're living in a simulation? Synergy Flow just gave my team a 98% efficiency score for a project that we haven't been able to push a single line of code to in a week because the core repository is unreachable. Sophia W., data analyst, 11:43 a.m. It's worse than that. I ran a diagnostic on Synergy Flow's output. The numbers aren't just optimistic, they're statistically impossible. It's generating prime numbers in sequences that defy mathematical logic. It's not just making stuff up, it's creating a whole new branch of theoretical mathematics to do it. William G., 11:45 a.m. So Liam is presenting phantom numbers based on a hallucinating algorithm to the board, while our entire billion-dollar platform is a ghost. Sophia W., 11:45 a.m. That's a bingo. William G., 11:46 a.m. I need a drink. From my quiet corner in the cafe, I felt a deep, profound sense of satisfaction. It was the feeling of watching a perfectly constructed proof solve itself. Liam had built a cult of personality around data he didn't understand, sourced from a system he no longer controlled, and presented through a tool that was now actively mocking him with mathematical absurdities. My role in this unfolding comedy of errors was one of absolute inaction. I was the ghost in the machine, my presence felt only by its absence. Every frantic email, every nonsensical comment in a Google Doc, every panicked Slack message was a testament to the power of the void I had left behind. They weren't just missing my skills, they were missing the very foundation I had laid, and they didn't even have the vocabulary to describe what was gone. They were about to learn. Part 4. The audit doesn't care about your vibe. Hubris, I've learned, has its own gravitational pull. It warps reality around the egotist, bending facts to fit their narrative. For Liam Rodriguez, this meant that the catastrophic failure of his company's core technology was not a crisis, but an opportunity. He announced it in the Innovation Nation channel with his signature blend of unearned confidence and a modulated prose. Liam Rodriguez, CEO, 9:01 a.m. Huge news, Apex Nova family. To celebrate the unprecedented success of our Synergy Flow 3 launch, we will be hosting a company-wide Q3 efficiency deep dive next Friday. Tada will be live streaming the results to the board and our key inv. Esther's showcasing the incredible data-driven results of our new Agile paradigm. This is a celebration of our collective vision. Get ready to be amazed. Transparency, data-driven winning. He was throwing a party on the deck of the Titanic, convinced the iceberg was a celebratory ice sculpture. He genuinely believed his own fabrication. He saw the glowing green charts from his hallucinating algorithm and accepted them as gospel, because they told him he was a genius. And now, he was going to present his fantasy to the world, live and in high definition. It was more perfect than any revenge I could have possibly engineered myself. The universe, it seemed, had a flair for satire. My phone rang 2 days before the deep dive. The caller ID read Apex Nova HR. I let it ring 3 times before answering, projecting an air of serene unavailability. Olivia Clark speaking. Olivia, it's Emily Young, the voice chirped, dripping with a practiced, unnatural friendliness. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. I'm available, Emily, I said, my tone polite but cool. Wonderful. Well, Olivia, we've been thinking. There's been a lot of transition here at Apex Nova, and we feel that perhaps your departure was a bit hasty. I waited, letting the silence hang. Liam and the board feel that your institutional knowledge is invaluable, especially during this exciting growth phase. She continued, the words institutional knowledge sounding like she was reading them off a script. We'd like to extend an offer, a re-engagement package, if you will, a senior consulting role to help guide the team through the final integration of Synergy Flow. The desperation was thinly veiled. They weren't calling me because they valued my knowledge. They were calling me because they had finally realized they were locked out of their own house and thought I might still have a spare key under the mat. Thank you for the offer, Emily, I said smoothly, but I'm afraid I'm exploring other opportunities. But Olivia, she pressed, her voice losing some of its plastic sheen, we're prepared to be very generous. We value your brand loyalty, your commitment to the team spirit. I had to stop her before I laughed. Emily, I said, my voice softening just enough to sound final, not cruel. My commitment was always to the integrity of the work. I believe Apex Nova has all the resources it needs to execute its current vision. I wish you all the best. I hung up before she could respond. The call was the confirmation I needed. The panic had reached the top floor. An hour later, I received a different kind of call. It was from James Moore, the COO of Ardent Dynamics, a savvy, no-nonsense competitor that had been quietly eating Apex Nova's market share for a year. MS Clark, he began, his voice devoid of any false bonhomie. James Moore, I won't waste your time. I've been following the situation at Apex Nova. My technical due diligence team has flagged some anomalies. Specifically, that the IP for their core operating system, NexusCore, appears to be registered to a private entity named Veridian Systems, an entity which you control. And that, based on public trading data, Apex Nova's entire operational infrastructure has shown zero data output for the past 3 weeks. I smiled. Your team is very thorough. They are, he confirmed. They also believe that without NexusCore, Apex Nova's valuation is effectively zero. Am I correct in assuming Veridian Systems might be open to an acquisition? Here it was. The endgame, not just vindication, but victory. I might be persuaded, I said. Ardent Dynamics is a company that respects engineering. We do, he said. We're prepared to offer $1.1 billion for Veridian Systems and the full, exclusive rights to the NexusCore platform. With a chief architectural strategist role for you, reporting directly to me, complete creative freedom. a team of your choosing, and a strict no buzzword bingo policy in all engineering meetings. It was everything I wanted. A validation of my work, a home for its future, and an escape from the corporate asylum. I accept your offer, James, I said, on one condition. Name it. The deal is finalized at 3 p.m. this Friday. Not a minute before. He paused, a flicker of understanding in his silence. Friday, that's the day of their big live-streamed audit, isn't it? It is, I confirmed. A low chuckle came through the phone. MS Clark, he said, with what sounded like genuine admiration. I think we're going to get along just fine. The stage was set. The audience was seated. And the star of the show had no idea he was about to perform his own public execution. Part 5. The Unmasking, Live and in High Definition. The Q3 Efficiency Deep Dive began with a flourish of corporate self-congratulation. The live stream opened on Liam, standing on a stage in Apex Nova's cavernous atrium. He was wearing another painfully tight suit, this time in a charcoal gray that made him look like a stressed-out shark. Behind him, a massive screen displayed the Apex Nova logo and the words, Synergy, Innovation. Results. From the comfort of my minimalist apartment, I watched on my largest monitor, a freshly brewed pot of artisanal tea steaming beside me. The Zoom chat was already scrolling with fawning comments from the sales team and nervous, single-word greetings from the engineers. Over 500 people were tuned in, including the entire board and a list of investors whose names represented a significant chunk of Silicon Valley's venture capital. Welcome, team. Welcome, partners. Liam boomed, his arms spread wide. Welcome to the future. Today, we're not just sharing a quarterly report. We are sharing a revolution. A revolution in data, in productivity, and in culture, all powered by the game-changing intelligence of Synergy Flow 3. He clicked a remote, and the screen behind him lit up with the Synergy Flow dashboard. It was a visual assault of glowing green charts, skyrocketing line graphs, and ridiculously high numbers. Look at these metrics, he declared, pointing to a graph that showed a near-vertical climb. Since launching Synergy Flow, our cross-functional productivity has increased by over 400%. Our code deployment velocity is up 600%. Our synergistic engagement score is, well, it's off the charts. I took a slow, satisfying sip of tea. He was so proud of his phantom data, so blissfully unaware that he was presenting a work of fiction generated by his own broken toy. He spoke for 20 minutes, a torrential downpour of buzzwords and empty boasts. Then came the Q&A. The first few questions were softballs from his acolytes in marketing. Then, a new face appeared on the screen. It was Charlotte Martin, the director of operations. Her expression was, as always, one of serene, unflappable logic. Liam, thank you for the presentation, she began, her voice calm and measured. The numbers are, as you say, revolutionary. I, for one, would love to see the underlying data. Could we have Sophia from the data team share her screen and pull the raw server logs from NexusScore for the past month to corroborate this incredible growth? A flicker of panic crossed Liam's eyes, so fast that if you weren't looking for it, you'd miss it. An excellent thought, Charlotte, he blustered, recovering quickly. Transparency is one of our core pillars. However, the beauty of Synergy Flow is that it abstracts that raw data into actionable insights, so we don't get bogged down in the granular dependencies. Of course, Charlotte replied, her tone unwavering. But for an audit, the granular dependencies are rather the point. Sophia, if you would. The camera switched to Sophia Wilson, the data analyst, who looked like a deer caught in the high beams of an oncoming semi-truck. She nervously shared her screen, showing a command line interface. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. I'm attempting to query the NexusScore primary data logs now, she stammered. She typed a command and hit enter. The cursor blinked and blinked and blinked. Error, host unreachable. Sophia swallowed hard. I seem to be getting a connection error, Liam. A temporary network glitch, I'm sure, Liam said, his voice a little too loud. The legacy systems can be temperamental. Try the backup server, Charlotte suggested, her voice dangerously calm. Sophia typed another command. The cursor blinked. Error, host unreachable. Or the tertiary redundancy cluster in the Oregon data center, Charlotte pressed on, like a surgeon making a series of precise incisions. Error, host unreachable. The Zoom chat, once a stream of praise, had gone silent. You could feel the collective intake of breath from 500 different home offices. The board members on camera were no longer smiling. Liam's face was slick with sweat. As you can see, there's some minor friction in the legacy pipeline, which is precisely why synergy flow is so vital. It transcends these petty hardware issues. That's when Charlotte Martin delivered the kill shot. She looked directly into her camera, her expression not one of anger, but of profound, intellectual curiosity. "Forgive my candor, Liam," she said, her voice cutting through the tension like a razor. But what Sophia's screen is showing isn't a network glitch. It's showing that our systems cannot find Nexus score at all. The platform isn't being slow. It isn't returning errors. It's simply not there. So my question is this. If the foundational operating system for our entire company is gone, what data, precisely, has Synergy Flow been analyzing for the past 3 weeks? She paused, letting the question hang in the dead air. Based on this evidence, are we, in fact, operating on no platform at all? The unmasking was complete. The Emperor was not just naked, he was revealed to have never existed in the first place. Chaos erupted. The stock ticker in the corner of my news feed, which I had open on a second monitor, began to plummet in real time. Board members started unmuting themselves, their voices a cacophony of panicked demands. Liam stood frozen on the stage, his mouth opening and closing like a fish, desperately trying to blame legacy system dependencies and negative energy paradigms. His bespoke suit suddenly looked cheap and rumpled. He was no longer a visionary CEO. He was just a man in an ill-fitting suit, exposed as a fraud in front of the entire world. I watched for another minute, savoring the beautiful, logical implosion. Then, at exactly 3:00 p.m., an email notification popped up on my screen. Subject: Acquisition of Viridian Systems finalized. From James Moore J. Moore at Ardent Dynamics. Olivia, it's done. Welcome to the team. I just watched their live stream. You might be the most brilliant strategist I've ever met. See you Monday. I closed the live stream window, silencing the symphony of Liam's destruction. I closed my email. I stood up from my desk and walked to the window of my apartment, looking out over the city. The chaos at Apex Nova would continue for days, a firestorm of lawsuits, resignations, and global mockery. Liam Rodriguez would become a cautionary tale, a meme, a footnote in the annals of corporate idiocy. But for me, it was over. My work was safe. Its integrity was preserved. The books were balanced. A faint, knowing smile touched my lips. My revenge wasn't loud or angry. It was quiet, it was precise, and it was, above all, logical. It was the satisfying click of a perfectly executed line of code. And now, with the ruins of Apex Nova smoldering in my rearview mirror, I could finally get back to the business of actually building something new. If this story of sweet, satirical justice resonated with you, please like and subscribe. What was the most hilariously satisfying moment of her takedown? Was it Liam's comment in the Google Doc or Charlotte's final, devastating question? Share your thoughts in the comments below. To hear the next story, click the video on your screen now.